of making paper, which is creating a pulp. Now today I've got this little machine here, which is I've actually used some recycled flannelette sheets, which is a yellow cotton that I've then added to this. Now, when we go through history of paper making, the very first paper ever made from using plants was actually made by the Egyptians. Now, the Egyptians used a particular plant called papyrus. Now, papyrus is a very reedy plant. Now, I've got some Egyptian paper here, some papyrus. Now, if I hold it up, hopefully you can see it, but it's actually crisscrossed. They actually woven all the papyrus together. Then they beat it and rolled it, and that formed paper. Now, when we say the word paper, it's Latin for papyrus. Okay, so it's always been in the wording. However, after that period, the Chinese discovered that you can separate plant fibre and put it back together. So you didn't have to use that one type of plant. Now, what Sailing in China did, he dug a pit, he used recycled fishing nets. It was actually made from hemp fibre. He got a log and he beated it. It separated the fibres, he put it back together and made it into paper, and suddenly that's how we made paper. We separated the fibres and we put it back together. But when the secrets left China, it went through to Korea, through to Japan, back through the Middle East and got to Europe. And it got to Holland. Now the Dutch made a machine which Sailing was doing in beating the material. They made a water-driven machine made up of large wooden stampers. So they had these cement vats, they'd put their material into these vats and these stampers would beat away, separating the fibres to put it back together again. And that's why we made paper. Then it went next door to Germany. Now the Germans invented a machine called a printing press, a gentleman by the name of Gutenberg. However, when he got the paper that was being made in Holland, it was way too coarse. It wasn't suitable to put through a printing press. So the Dutch come up with this design of a machine called a Hollander beater, which separated the fibres completely. So when you put it back together, it made a finer paper and it was then suitable for putting it through the printing press. And in fact, this design of beater has not changed in 450 years of making paper, because the last 450 years of making paper, we've made paper for printing on. And we still do it today. We just do it now with a commercial mill to produce that paper printing on. So how this machine works is I'll fill it with water, add my cotton to the water. Inside the machine is a large metal roller, and it's going to rotate the water and fibre in a circular motion. Now under that roller is a metal plate. Now the plate is going to beat against it. Now what it's doing to the material is start to bruise the fibres. Now when we make paper, we use a particular part of the plant that we call cellulose. Now what cellulose does as a plant, it forms glucose, which is a sugary liquid that flows through it. So cellulose is a hollow fibre, which means here when they get beaten, the water gets inside them and they hydrate, they expand. Now on the outside of the cellulose, they have these little hairs. Now what they do is connect each one of those cells together as the plant grows. So what this machine does, it takes those hairs and it teases them apart. It separates them so they're on their own. Now by doing that, when I then make my paper, these hairs on the outside of the cellulose is what I'll use to bind it together. So what I don't have to do is use any glues or any substance to stick it together. But because the cellulose is hollow, I have to seal it off. Because if you don't, when you write, print or paint on the paper, it's going to be like a paper towel. It's going to soak up all the water because the fibres are hollow. So here I add a substance called size. Now size comes from a plant. It's a bit like a wax. What it does, it coats the inside of the cellulose. But when the paper dries, it hardens and it seals it off. So the liquid can't get in there. And that's why then you can write and print and paint on my papers that I make. Now this whole process will take 1.5 hours to break it down into a pulp. Then if I want to mix anything in there, this is the time that I do it. So if I'm adding the apple pulp, adding the lavender, adding a bit of kangaroo poo, mix it all through now, then I'm ready to turn that into paper. Any questions? So basically what I've just said is I'm pulling it apart and now I'm going to put it back together again. Let's go to the next room.